What if the most powerful weapon we have against cancer isn't found in a pill or a procedure, but in a fork or a spoon in your pantry, on your plate? What if that is the most powerful tool that we have? Well, today in the classroom, we are so fortunate. Since 2015, Dr. Furman has been an amazing teacher, one that I learn and embrace a Nutritarian lifestyle. And he is here today. He's a best-selling author, multiple books, world renowned. Dr. Furman is a wonderful teacher, speaker. He's going to be a speaker at the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit for Cancer and Autoimmune Disease on November 1st, 2025. So make sure you put it in your calendar. Dr. Furman has spent his life teaching all of us about plant-based solutions. Plant-based solutions that not only make you look good and make you feel good, but keep you healthy. And so I'm excited that Dr. Furman is doing a free webinar coming up in June 24, 28, and we're going to be talking about this and more. So go get your pencils, go get your paper, pens, whatever it is that you like, because we're going to learn and grow together.
And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
Hi, my name is Lily McDermott, and I'm a certified life coach. I am a certified holistic cancer coach and the host of the Lillian McDermott radio show Classroom. If this is the first time you're in the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening and viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Well, the number one question that I love to ask when Dr. Furman is in the classroom is, have you had your G-bombs today? So Dr. Furman's going to be talking about the G-bombs, the Cancer Conference webinar, and we're going to continue to reverse whatever it is that we have done to ourselves by eating the standard American diet and turning around and doing the Nutritarian lifestyle, which is absolutely phenomenal. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Joe Furman is here and that we can hear him. We can hear him. And he's here to do just that. Welcome back, Dr. Furman.
Great to be here.
Did
Looking
I
forward to the talk
did I
today.
interrupt you? You looked like you were deep in thought. I'm so grateful that I finally can hear you.
We'll get it done.
Yeah, we're getting it done today. Okay, so Dr. Furman, I know that you are so passionate, and we've gotten some new subscribers that are tuning into the classroom, and this is a treat for if anybody doesn't know who you are. So share a little bit about your background. Why, as you, as a medical doctor, classically trained, have chosen plant-based lifestyle, nutritarian lifestyle, to help people change their path, change what they think is aging in the standard American diet way?
Because medical care has very little effect on overall lifespan. And people think that doctors are going to save their life with a pill or a treatment. And we're not living longer than ever before. Cancer, heart attacks are still the number one cause of death for adults. And cancer deaths are actually increasing, not decreasing. They're even increasing more rapidly in younger people. And with the billions of dollars, 60 billions of dollars on the war on cancer, we haven't gotten any closer to really solving this. And we can't get really too close because the cause is what we're putting in our mouth and the environmental toxins. You can't take a pill to enable you to eat donuts and drink alcohol and expect not to pay a price. When you put poisons in your body, you poison your body. But the good news is these advancements in nutritional science have told us that with the right precision of foods and nutrients, we could cancer protect our body. And now we do have the information where people don't have to get breast, prostate, and colorectal cancer, the three most common cancers that afflict Americans. And they are preventable almost to the point of, in the high 90 percentile. In other words, they're almost totally preventable. And it's not like people think they're genetic. Even people with a genetic BRCA1 or GSDP1 gene that increases the risk of breast cancer, breast cancer is still preventable with optimal lifestyle and diet. And you don't even have to adopt a diet that's perfect from birth, even though that helps. But even when people adopt the right diet later in life, they can still make their body so resistant to cancer to make the possibility of getting cancer almost impossible. So the reason that I'm so passionate and mission driven is because I've seen so many people who were sickly be able to get well again, and even people with advanced cancers be able to recover and not have recurrence of their cancers and live 10, 15, 20, 25 years where they were expected to be dead in 6 to 12 months. But the major message here is that don't wait till you get cancer to start treating it effectively. The major message is live healthfully, protect yourself against cancer, and precision nutrition. The Nutritarian diet has a lot of precision in it. We're using, like you said, we're using G-bombs, we're using scallions and onions and mixing them with multiple varieties of mushrooms, and not just lettuce and green vegetables, but actually having lettuce with cruciferous greens raw in a salad, having both, and putting sprouts on that salad too. So the four components of that salad I just mentioned that are so critical to power up the anti-cancer potential is lettuce, raw cruciferous vegetables like bok choy or kale or arugula, sprouts, and onion or scallion. Those are the four most critical elements to make the anti-cancer salad. And we're saying that raw vegetables have the most consistent and powerful association with the reduction of cancers of all types. More than 300 studies show that. And I want people to write that down and memorize that line. Raw vegetables have the most consistent and powerful association with the reduction of cancers of all types. So we have a salad at least once a day. Can you imagine if everybody in America had a salad, big salad once a day? So we have this salad with those four anti-cancer components. That's very critically important. And then the dressing on the salad is a dressing made from nuts and seeds. And one of the nuts in the dressing should be an omega-3 fatty acid nut or seed. And there's four of those. The high omega-3 nuts and seeds are walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds, and hemp seeds. So one of those four mixed in with, maybe it could be sesame seeds and hemp seeds, or cashews and sesames, or walnuts and sesame, something. And then you might be a roasted tomato garlic dressing with black fig vinegar and walnuts. It might be an orange sesame dressing with orange. But in any case, the point I'm making is the fat from the nuts and seeds increases the absorption of the phytonutrients that protect against cancer by more than 40 times, 40-fold increased absorbed ability because you have some fat with the salad. Now, so here's the kicker. Here's what I want you to remember. The nutrient that has the most protection against cancer, with the most ability to repair the cell and remove toxins and carcinogens from the cell and repair DNA damage, are the isothiocyanates found in cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, kale, and bok choy, and broccoli sprouts, and arugula and watercress and Brussels sprouts. Okay, that's the critical. But the studies that show how protective this is in promoting longevity show that urinary ITCs, urinary isothiocyanates, are more correlated with protection than just the amount of cruciferous vegetables eaten might not be as well correlated compared to urinary ITCs. Now, why is that the case? Why would you? And the reason that's not is the case, and people have to understand this thoroughly, is that the ITCs are formed in the mouth with an enzymatic chemical reaction while you're chewing the vegetable. And the catalyst for that reaction is an enzyme called myrosinase. And myrosinase is heat sensitive. So if you overcook the broccoli and the bok choy and the Brussels sprouts, you're going to be eating cruciferous vegetables, but you won't be getting ITCs into the body. If you eat a salad that has arugula and watercress and sprouts on it, and you don't chew it very well, even though it's raw, you're still not going to get ITCs in the body. You need to do those two things simultaneously. You need to eat the vegetable either raw or not cook too much, like you can cook it in a wok, so it's a little bit cooked, but not overcook it. Or you could And besides, then you have to chew it real well. Because not only is it has to be raw or not overcooked, but you have to break down the cell walls in your mouth by liquefying it with your teeth. And people don't chew well enough. So it's only the people that are eating these vegetables raw and chewing those raw vegetables super well that are getting high levels of ITCs into their blood and urine.
Mm. That's
So
amazing.
it's, so this is a nutritarian diet. It's not a whole food plant-based diet. It's not a vegan diet. It's not a blue zone diet. It's not because those diets don't give you the nutritional precision
Hmm.
to assure that you're consuming all these individual factors that have to get in the blood to protect the body against cancer. You could be on a whole food plant-based diet, eating it could be like a macrobiotic diet, eating mostly rice and seaweed. Or it could be a diet rather around potatoes and corn, or it could be a diet, mostly of fruit. Or it could be a diet in a blue zone where they're eating, and those diets, don't get me wrong, are better than the average American diet. You still see lifespan benefits from the diets I'm mentioning, but they're not the same thing as a nutritarian diet, which maximizes protection against cancer and is a more powerful effect at extending human longevity, much more powerful effect. Because we're using modern nutritional science, not just to make the diet lower in fat and higher in nutrients, we're using it to pick those nutrients that work synergistically to include because the body works in a specific way with receptors and mechanisms that are fueled by certain plant elements. And we're making sure we get those plant elements in the diet and in a high enough concentration to be highly effective. And we know what those concentrations require. And we also use certain supplements simultaneously to the diet to heighten that degree of protection. Even when you have cancer, cancer cells overexpress the AHR, the aryl hydrocarbon receptor, right? And now the question is, what else? And if you promote that aryl hydrocarbon receptor, you promote cancer cell replication. And particularly promoting the cancer cell replication and invasion is animal protein, particularly amino acids, tryptophan and methionine. And then they obviously turn tryptophan into chironine. In any case, we produce these substances that make the cells more invasive, more likely to metastasize, and more likely to kill people. And these elements, like we're talking about these elements, from peppers, from arugula, from artichokes, from sprouts, from the EGCG, from green tea. So we're talking here about the curcumins from turmeric. And so we're talking about what are these factors and methylated flavonoids that actually antagonize the aryl hydrocarbon receptors that don't let cancer cells grow and metastasize and cause them to actually go in the other direction. And what I'm saying here, I'm saying that breast cancer does not grow in a linear fashion. It does not go a little bit of cancer, more, more, more. It doesn't go straight up. It can be growing, it could flatten out and go back the other way, and it can turn around and could go and can recede and disappear. Breast cancers can come, they can level off, they can get worse, they can level off and go back and get better. Breast cancers are not linear, they don't grow in a predictable manner. And many cancers that are diagnosed with mammograms would never have advanced on to be life-threatening. But when people are then treated with chemotherapy or radiation, that can then cause secondary cancers or accelerate a person's death. So because the pathologist who looks at the biopsy of the mass is wrong about 30% of the time, they overdiagnose cancer. So about a third of the women walking around thinking they have breast cancer and thinking chemo and radiation saved their lives or they would have been dead if their cancer wasn't diagnosed and found are wrong. The cancer would never have gotten to the point to kill them, and they just received chemo and radiation for no reason. That's 1/3 of those treated, 1/3 of those treated for breast cancer are treated needlessly. The technology is just not good enough to be able to track the cancers and to see which direction they're traveling in. And I'm saying we can affect the travel of the cancer. And we could take that direction of travel, which may recede with no intervention, but just staying on the same diet you're on, it could still have gotten better. But we make sure it gets better and goes in that direction by flooding the body with these nutrients that, particularly with breast and prostate cancer, enable the body to halt and arrest growth of that cancer. And we're talking here about not only the right type of food and the right type of supplements, but preparing the food properly and eating it
Mhm.
so you chew it well enough to make it absorbable. So there's a lot of factors involved here.
Dr. Furman, what do you say to people that have lost their teeth, for example, that they don't have the capability of chewing as well? Maybe they don't have, maybe they still have their teeth, but it hurts to chew. They've gotten used to the standard American diet, which doesn't require that much chewing mechanism. What do you say to them? What would be more important to have their teeth removed and get better dentures to chew better, or to can they put it in a food processor to just
Well,
kind of like
a
get this start?
blender, yeah, the blender, a high-powered blender like a Vitamix, breaks open more cells. Usually, a food processor doesn't usually make the particles as small as the
Okay.
blades of the Vitamix, of a blender. Yeah, they can make a blended salad and add a little liquid to it.
And they can add a smoothie, and they can chew it as they can just go through that chewing. Will that chewing motion release the enzymes that we were talking about earlier? Will that if they're drinking their smoothie or drinking their salad, they need to chew it as well to create those enzymes to
No,
activate? No?
the enzymes are activated in the blender
In the blender, okay. But your
because
saliva
after
does, I thought the saliva had something to do with it too.
saliva does not participate in the reaction to turn the glucosinolates into ITCs for the anti-cancer effect.
Okay.
Saliva has other beneficial effects, but not related to the production of ITCs. When you
Okay.
mix food with saliva, it produces more nitric oxide, and the bacteria in the mouth produce more beneficial anti-inflammatory compounds, but it's not the anti-cancer ITCs, that other beneficial compounds.
Yeah.
Uh, Also, when you mix food with saliva, you produce more endothelial growth factors that can help protect the lining of the gut from irritation from acids. So, but it's not the same thing as the ITCs or even in the blender. If you blend the food when it's raw, let's say I put onion in the blender and I blend it up when it's raw. Don't forget we mentioned the myrosinase enzyme
Hmm.
that makes the ITCs that enable the cell to remove carcinogens and toxins and repair the DNA.
Hmm.
But the other compound, there's a category or a group of compounds called organosulfide compounds
Yeah.
that are from the onion family. And we want a variety of green vegetables, a variety of mushrooms, and a variety of onions, the onion family. We like to recommend the combination of scallion and also red onion, to have both those in your diet, scallion and red onion. Now, we also put leek in the soups too. It's in the same family. The enzyme in the onion is called alliinase. People know when they cut an onion up and it makes their eyes tear, they're
Hmm.
forming sulfenic acid. Now, when the sulfenic acid is being formed, when you're breaking up the cell wall, you're forming other protective compounds in the organosulfide family that have powerful protective effects against cancer that work in conjunction with the isothiocyanates from green vegetables, and of course some nutrients from mushrooms and ergothine. But in any case, it activates the body's anti-cancer protective, makes you a cancer shield, a combination between green vegetables, mushrooms, and onions. So now we have the raw onion or raw scallion in the blender that we blended up. And because it blended over not just the ones you cut open, but it blended up every cell. Of course, you can keep your head back away from the blender because there's going to come a lot of acids coming up. But now that we have this blender full of onion compounds, of organosulfide compounds, we can pour it into a soup to be cooked. The heat won't destroy the compounds. But if we put the onion into the soup or the leek or the scallion into the soup first before we blended it or chewed it, then it would have deactivated the enzymes and no organosulfate compounds would have been formed. The same thing with the kale or the bok choy, the mustard greens, the turnip greens. By letting it blend raw in the blender, we allow it to form the ITCs in the blender, and the ITCs are heat sensitive. The heat would have prevented their formation, but once they're formed in the blender, we could pour that puree into the soup, into a bowl, the pot we're cooking on the stove with beans, and make a bean, mushroom, onion soup out of it, vegetable soup out of it.
That sounds like a very delicious outcome, because I know that your vegetable soup, I think it's your broccoli soup. There is carrot juice. You put carrot juice in
In the
there
base,
in a base, and it's so good. It's been a while. I think I need to make that again. All your books have, and you have over 14 books. that, and I don't know how many of them became the bestsellers, but
Seven.
and seven of them are bestsellers.
Seven
Let's
New York
just
Times bestsellers. Yeah.
the bestsellers. So the Eat for Life book is Dr. Furman's last book that he says it's going to be his last, but he's had little mini books that have come out.
Yeah, we
Um,
produce booklets and things, but not doing not a major book.
No, but still, there's still have incredible recipes, and that you have just absolutely changed my kitchen because of it. And when you're talking about those nuts and seeds and the dressings, I have not bought one dressing since I started following you. I find that dressings are not only expensive, but they're full of fructose corn syrup. They're full of ingredients that I can't even pronounce. But that goddess recipe was, I make it every day, almost every time that I make it, and everybody loves it. Even people who hate the way I eat, they love the goddess
Yeah, we don't want
dressing.
oil and salt. We want
Nope.
nuts and no salt.
Correct,
No
correct. And there's no
sauce.
nuts. And the pie, the chocolate pie that I make, the chocolate cream pie, I make that every time there's a special event, and everybody loves it. But there's a myth out there, Dr. Furman, that I heard somebody say this to me that they had to give up certain foods. And the person said, "Shoot me now. Just shoot me now." But the person ended up dying of dementia. But the life that they had, because they chose to have this limiting belief that healthy food tastes bad somehow, can you override that myth because the foods that I've always made from your recipes, and of course I add my own spin style, my favorite, like everybody has their favorite seasonings and things like that. And so with all your recipes that I have made, I could serve it to anybody and they love it. And so let's dispel this myth that people would say, I'd rather eat my cake than, than stop and eat healthy food. That's disgusting. Can we dispel that rumor that healthy food is very good tasting and not only that, healthy?
Well, that's for you and I and other nutritarians. That's because we've become habituated to eating healthfully. But when you become habituated to eating unhealthfully, then you rewire the brain because you have such a high glycemic load coming in from all the white flour and sugar and honey
Hmm.
and white potato and French fries, whatever, and white rice, that the glycemic load is the amount of sugar spiking in the blood,
Hmm.
which affects the brain and rewires the brain and stimulates the dopamine centers in the brain. And people get habituated to this caloric, this calorie rush in the blood, and then they feel empty or unsatisfied if they're not using a brain stimulating food. And there's also, besides the glycemic load, there's also the lipemic load. Glycemic refers to the amount of sugar in the blood, and the lipemic load refers to how much fat is in the blood. And the American diet is animal fats, gets its fat from animal fats and oils. And animal fats and oils can put a tremendous lipemic load in the blood. You can put 200 calories into the blood of fat and 200 calories in the blood of sugar, and that's 400 calories affecting the brain, which then if makes the person become chronically dopamine insensitive, as if they're on narcotics all the time. And if they don't duplicate or exceed a certain level of calories in the blood, they feel empty and unsatisfied because they've already overstimulated, rewired the brain in a way that loses, obviously, creativity and brain function and memory, but they also have become food addicts. So also the highly palatable sugar, salty, and sweetened foods, and also the fatty and fried foods, the hyperpalatable foods that have this high caloric rush also have the effect to weaken the taste muscle as well. It takes time, even months, where a person who's a food addict will start to enjoy a healthy meal and be able to taste the flavors fully and not feel empty after they have the meal. So if I fed you a nice big salad with a nut and seed based dressing with beans in the salad, and then I gave you a bowl of vegetable bean soup with mushrooms, and you had a piece of fruit for dessert, you'd feel satisfied, and the other person would feel unsatisfied. They're not going to feel satisfied until they have their chocolate bar, their ice cream cone, their pizza, their burger, their soda, their French fries. They need something with a higher caloric rush. So they're a food addict. And the smoker feels like what's life worth living if I can't smoke? What's life worth living if I can't drink alcohol? What is life worth living if I can't shoot up or snort cocaine? Because people who habituate to addictive substances makes their life dysthymic, unhappy, with no passion, no excitement, no purpose, no motivation to have compassion and do good for humanity. And they live their life narcissistically, chasing the using brain stimulating substances. What I'm saying right now is that eating commercial baked goods and fast foods make people depressed or dysthymic. And now the only pleasure they get in life, because as the brain is seeking out its pleasures, it becomes more narcissistically and selfishly consumed with wanting brain stimulating substances. A heroin addict or a cocaine addict can steal, cheat, lie, hurt other people as long as they get their hit. They don't care what happens to somebody else. The more the primitive brain is in control and driven by your need for addictive stimulation, the less compassionate, caring, and the less your motives are based on being useful and helpful to other people because you just want your own hits are overriding. You can't be as good a parent, as good a teacher, as good a writer, as good a musician, as good of an artist, or as good of a coach, an athletic coach. You can't be as good as you can possibly be at whatever you want to do when you're an addict. And why would people put self-destructive substances in their mouth? Eat donuts? Why would they eat hamburgers and pizza? Why would they eat any white flour, which diminishes your lifespan? And the reason they do it is because they're all addicted to it, and they became addicted in their childhood. And they don't recognize the addiction because it's universal. Because I'm not calling you an addict, I'm calling everybody an addict who's eating American food. And that's why 89% of Americans are overweight. It's not saying so everybody in America has habituated to over consuming calories. The American diet consumes about 3,300 calories a day. And as people are listening to me talk, I know what they're thinking. They're thinking, this sounds good, but it's not for me. The primitive brain always is looking for a rationalization to get out, to continue its need or desire for hyperstimulation. So you don't want to give up your bagels, your pizza, your candy, your ice cream, your alcohol. People don't want to give it up. So this message is not that exciting to them. It takes a lot of education. They have to be immersed in this material and really living it to have what happened to them, what happened to us, to no longer crave or desire those foods, to be disgusted by those hyperpalatable, greasy, salty, oily, sugary foods. We don't even like that stuff. To have our taste muscle improve and to not crave overeating or not to want to eat that stuff and to develop and to be able to make healthy foods using creativity and flavorings to make it taste really good. We enjoy our diet as much as they're enjoying their diet, but they want to enjoy our diet in the beginning. That takes some work and repetition and learning recipes and time and doing it in practice and dedication.
It's
And
like learning a new language. It's like learning a new
it takes
language. It
that's right. It
takes
takes an
time.
effort.
Yeah.
Well, I'm doing a podcast today on osteoporosis, and the whole point is that it takes an effort to maintain, but to not have falls. You've got to practice side to side motion.
Yeah.
You've got to work on your strength. You've got to work on your body. You've got to exercise every day for your whole life. People don't want to do that. They don't want to eat right and work on their body so they don't have to fall and trip when they're 85 years old and break a bone. They want to take a pill so they don't have to, so they can just sit on the couch and watch TV and eat donuts. So you can't, it doesn't, so to have really good health, it takes effort and dedication and to what you're going to do every day. And our message, and you actually being a megaphone to tell people about my message,
Yes.
we know that the audience is somewhat limited because most people don't want to hear this message. They want to hear something that reinforces their beliefs and desires to consume highly palatable, addictive substances that they want to eat, like bacon, like cheeseburgers, like pizza, like steaks. They want meat is good. They will sugar. They don't want to hear anything that what they're doing is wrong. This is not a comfortable message for them. you know?
No, no, it isn't. And you know what? It's so funny because um you talk about people don't want to give up something, and it's because they don't know they could feel better. They think this is as good as it's going to get, and it's not the truth. It is, I guess, the myth that we're trying to keep going and eating the same way and eating the same way. But if people were to just make that change, that shift, and learning about it, be curious about what Dr. Furman is talking about, and saying, you know what, I'm just going to try get a book, one of his books, and eat for life. They all have recipes in the back. And you can just start with one recipe at a time. Maybe just start with breakfast or just do a lunch. Just do a salad every day. Start with that. There's so many different ways that you can start feeling better. And it happened to me when I was challenged to go raw vegan back in 2012. I was challenged to go raw vegan for 30 days, and I said, "Bring it." And it wasn't that I felt bad. I just didn't know I could feel better. And until you know better, you don't do better, but you just got to trust the process. Just take that and say, I'm going to make a commitment to do better. And so I'm going to just take a little moment before we start talking about this wonderful event that Dr. Furman is going to do. And by the way, the link is below so that you can click below the link so that you can register for this free webinar with Dr. Furman and others as well. It's a 3 day, a 4 day webinar. So, but what I want to encourage you is to go to whenyounneedafriend.com. Please subscribe to my website while you're there. Please like and follow me on all social media. Check out my sponsors, support my sponsors the way they're supporting the classroom. You can go to my Shop Now bag and just know that these are all Lilly approved products from head to toe, that you can truly start reversing your health without the consequences. As you know, my registered service mark is you can take a pill or you can take responsibility. It's not that I'm against the pill, because there are some pills that when you're in a rush and you're in an emergency situation might save your life, but those pills are not designed for you to take it the rest of your life. It's designed for you to start taking ownership for your life. And that's my passion, as well as Dr. Furman, who's been doing this a heck of a whole lot longer with a heck of a lot more education than I do. And I'm so grateful that he is in the classroom today. Last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom, whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month, a one-time donation of your time, your talent, your treasure, sharing this video to all your friends on your page, on your Facebook page, on your YouTube page, wherever it is that you're at BitChute or listening on podcasts, share it with your friends so that now you can be a part of the megaphone too, and say, let's do this together, because friends that grow together, stay healthy together, and most people don't understand what they're giving up by not choosing this lifestyle. And I'm not trying to push one thing or another. I'm just trying for you to be curious instead of critical so that you can change your life. Because when I speak with Dr. Furman, and I just had the pleasure to spend some time with him, catching up with him in Austin, Texas, it's just so nice to see that he doesn't just talk the talk, he walks it. He walks it and he lives it, and he is so passionate that it's so inspiring to me. Every time I do a class with him, every time I'm next to him, it just makes me want to do better. And I want to encourage all of you to also do the same. Dr. Furman has this event, and the link is below so that you can link it and you can register so that you can attend and start learning these new truths. Because, people say to me, you've got to die from something. Well, I say to them, yes, you are going to die, but how do you want to live? That's the question I ask all my clients that I coach. I ask you, and I challenge you, my listening and viewing friends. And I know that Dr. Furman has absolutely seen the devastation of the standard American diet and the joy of seeing his patients and residents at the Eat to Live retreat center reverse their ease. And Dr. Furman's going to be a speaker. We're going to Zoom him in at unless he wants to come to Florida, he can stay at our house on November 1st, 2025. He's going to be one of the speakers at the event, the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit for Cancer and Autoimmune Disease. And I'm so looking forward to sharing you, Dr. Furman, with that audience that will come and sit down and just take lots of notes and learn and grow. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing and for changing my life, for making me aware that I didn't have to repeat the diseases that my grandmother had, my mother had, and that I can be a generational pattern shifter. So thank you.
My pleasure.
So let's talk about this event. Tell us about the event and why should we register and commit? Are you going to be, it looks like you're going to be hosting the entire event. Did I get that correctly?
Yes, I mean, I'm interviewing 22 scientist physicians on this Cancer Solutions Summit. And out of the 22 interviews, I'm also speaking 4 times myself.
Good.
So there'll be about 26 sessions, 4 from me and 22 from other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked these 22 people because I felt that they had something they had to say contributes to this discussion because they're leading scientists, researchers, or innovators in this field.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a tremendous movement in this plant-based solutions for cancer that includes a list of supplements that prevent cellular replication and induce remission. Things we're talking about, even we mentioned today, like curcumins and EGCG from green tea and mushroom extracts,
Mm-hmm.
and even isolates from soy or from other herbs that can have anti-cancer effects. And combined with dietary intervention, we're able to see that most slow-growing cancers are able to reverse themselves. And even so, we're talking about garden variety postmenopausal breast cancer and prostate cancers are conditions that are largely reversible with nutritional excellence. Of course, there are extremely invasive cancers like stage 4, like ovarian cancer, pancreatic cancer, or premenopausal estrogen negative breast cancers that might be very invasive. And those very invasive cancers might require chemotherapy because otherwise the person, the natural therapies aren't able to solve that. But we're also studying new avenues in which we can use nanotechnology and peptide delivery of natural substances to the cancer cells directly to obviate the need for chemotherapy in most cancers. So in other words, there's a tremendous ability today to give people the simple solutions of what they can do in home without spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to what supplements to take, what foods to eat, and what therapies they can order to do in their house that can protect themselves. And even when you have an invasive cancer that requires chemotherapy, it doesn't necessarily result in a longer lifespan because the chemotherapy never kills all the cancerous cells. Some potential stem cells, some cancer stem cells still survive the chemo and escape. And 6 years, 4 years, 8 years later, they come back, they replicate, they form a new cancer that's spread in different locations. And that new cancer, the recurrence of cancer, is now not susceptible to chemo because those were cells that escaped chemo to begin with. They were chemo-resistant cells. The point I'm making is that this is so important even when a person does need chemo, because then the body has the ability to seek out and destroy those cells that escape the chemo to prevent recurrence. And I can say this because I've been in practice for more than 37 years. And I have people that came to me more than 20 years ago with metastatic cancers that were supposed to be dead. So I have people like one woman had metastatic ovarian cancer with her 4 liters of fluid in a collapsed lung that she received chemo. And now 27 years later, she's still alive, never had recurrence of that cancer. And then 2 other women with metastatic ovarian cancer with the same results. Whereas it's unheard of for a person not to have recurrence of cancer once they have metastatic stage 4 ovarian cancer, even with chemo. And the same thing I'm saying is people with lymphoma that went away with no chemo and people with breast cancer that went away and disappears with no chemo, that we're seeing that we have tremendous opportunity today to understand this process and to protect the body and to know exactly what fuels cancer cell replication and invasiveness and spread, such as keto diets. We're learning now that keto diets, because they're depriving the cancer of sugar, may initially cause some small degree of shrinkage of the initial tumor, and then the cancer rapidly adjusts and they start to become more invasive and accelerate their metastatic potential when you expose these cancers to a keto diet or a high fat environment, a low sugar environment. So we're saying people are promoting keto diets for cancers, which are not the right thing, except for certain types of cancers like glioblastomas,
Hmm.
which are
Yeah.
invasive brain cancers, which don't metastasize. In those cases, that the keto diet may be helpful, and we do a plant-based keto, not, mostly a plant-based keto in those conditions. But generally speaking, what I'm saying is we have much more advances, much more harmless and toxin-free or side effect-free modalities, and most cancers can be arrested. And even when you have treatment, you need conventional treatments, you can still prevent those cancers from coming back. And the answer is nutritional excellence, precision nutrition. It's not conventional medical care. Just taking your conventional medical care does not result in favorable outcomes. It results in predictable poor outcomes if you don't get the person to change their lifestyle and really. So what I'm saying is this precision nutrition that I'm recommending is amazingly effective because care of your cardiologist with
Hmm.
drugs doesn't stop you from having heart attacks, and care with your oncologist from cancer is not predictable response to prevent you from dying of cancer. You need to do more than those things. It's not enough. It doesn't work. You have to take the science that we've developed over the last decade and apply it.
Dr. Furman, anyone that is in the process of either getting cancer, getting a diagnosis of cancer, or being told that someone they love has cancer, the first instinct from everybody is to say, "Oh, you need chemotherapy, you need radiation, you need all these things." And the reality is, and the research that I've done, as well as what I've learned from you, is that should not be the first line of defense. How do you advise someone that is being told, but not just the doctor, by every family member, every friend, that the only way to reverse cancer is chemotherapy? And I heard it loud and clear today when you were talking about, when people are choosing to do chemo, and that is not the end all be all as well. So, what kind of advice would you give someone that is now facing this decision? They're tuning in today, no accident that they're tuning in today. What is your advice for them? Well, not as your doctor, not as their doctor, but what would be the advice for someone that is now being told that the only way out is chemo?
Well, don't forget the most common cancer in women is breast cancer. And the most common type of breast cancer are estrogen positive postmenopausal breast cancers, and which don't respond very well to chemo. The cancers are relatively slow growing, and chemo affects better affects a more invasive, rapidly growing cancer. When cells are replicating rapidly, they unravel their DNA and are susceptible to poison.
Hmm.
And these slower growing cancers are very susceptible to the nutritional elements we're talking about. So we're talking about most cases of cancer. And of course, we're talking about the most common cancers are in women are the invasive ductal carcinoma and the invasive lobular carcinoma. And I'm saying that 30% of those diagnoses are incorrect anyway. And we accelerate the reversal of some of those is because those are not linear progression. They are affected by nutrition and by deprivation of saturated fats and tryptophan and methionine deprivation and exposure to phytonutrients, which we're talking about. We enable the cancer cells, and we can track we have new technology to track the cancer cells going the other direction, including new ways of measuring breast tissue, where we can measure the breasts on these new ultrasounds that are incredibly accurate in measuring the size of the mass and documenting that the size of the mass is actually shrinking and your cancer is going away, or your precancerous condition is going away. The same thing with men with prostate cancer. The most common cancer in men is prostate cancer. And even Gleason scores below 6, almost all doctors recommend what they call watchful waiting as an option,
Yeah.
because we know that if we track men who were treated for prostate cancer, their quality of life and lifespan is not benefited by treatment. The overall effect of prostate cancer treatments, and most men undergoing treatments for prostate cancer, when interviewed, regret that they did it. They don't like their life after that. It doesn't, there's too much risks associated with the treatments. I tell men with Gleason scores of 7 and even 8 that we can follow their PSAs, we can follow their scans, and we can prove that the intervention we're using, which is non-radiation or chemo, and not radiation seed implantation, or androgen or hormonal deprivation, androgen deprivation, hormones, we can prove that the PSA is going down, the prostate cancer is reversing itself. These new nutritional interventions have measurable parameters now. We have the technology to measure with the reversal of breast cancer. The woman knows it's working and her cancer is getting better. And we have the technology with men to know that the prostate cancer is getting better and improving. We can monitor their PSAs and their right. We can know that what we're doing is working. And if not working, and if the cancer is advancing, we could always change the course. But what I'm saying is, jumping into conventional therapy is not even recommended by most people. You have plenty of time. Think about this and start with the natural, nutritional, and safe methods that aren't going to kill you. With regard to breast cancer, we're saying here that mammograms do not extend lifespan in the population who are screened, because for every person that's helped in some way where her lifespan is lengthened, there's an equal number where the lifespan has been shortened or more. A lot of researchers are showing it's net harm, which means more people are harmed than are helped, because not only because as we said before, the pathologist, even under a microscope, can't tell for sure whether that cancer is one that's going to keep growing and kill a person or go back the other direction. And though a lot of those cancers, even though they would have gone back the other direction with no treatment, with precision nutrition we're talking about, we facilitate those cancers from going back in the other direction. And then when people get chemo and radiation and they get mammograms for all those years, they're exposed to radiation, which causes cancer. The chemo causes secondary cancers, and the radiation and chemo can cause other cancers or even heart disease, damage to the heart, and accelerate other causes of death. So medical care is not without its flaws that actually kill people as they help people. And so we're trying to help people without killing people. And what about all the women who are walking around with the knowledge and fear that they have breast cancer, when it's better they never even knew that? And so, of course, my preference is that people live a healthy life and don't have to even worry about getting cancer, because we know that you don't have to get cancer if you live healthy enough. And then people could say, well, what about a 5-year-old who gets a child of acute blastocytic leukemia, or a 12-year-old who gets a glioblastoma brain tumor? And yes, there are cancers that are affected by what the mother or father, but mostly what the mother eats in her pregnancy or even prior to conception, when the eggs are living in her body. So some cancers are caused by not only your diet, but what your mother could have eaten. And there's a link between eating luncheon meats like hot dogs, pastrami, bacon, and bologna, and brain tumors and acute blastocytic leukemia in the offspring. And a lack of green vegetables in the mother's diet also can negatively affect the eggs and predispose them to certain early life cancers. But these are still preventable cancers. Just because they were caused by what the mother did and not what the child did, it's still preventable if people have learned about nutrition.
Yeah, yeah, and I hear you, and it is so sad to hear that 30% of all cancers are misdiagnosed,
Right.
and they're rushed into doing chemotherapy and radiation. And even if they were to shrink the tumor or anything like that, the consequences down the road, people don't think that it could, these drugs, these therapies can have a cancer recurrence just because they use these drugs. So when you're looking at someone that is having, that has been diagnosed with cancer, or maybe we should all act as if we have cancer and start doing whatever we would do, because it seems like to me, Dr. Furman, that people don't care about prevention. They just care like, oh, they have cancer, they got to rush and they got to fix it like tomorrow. But outside of that urgency, I don't see that prevention seems to be a priority. To me, it's a priority because I'd rather prevent it than have to fight it and
And
or
live
to
with
reverse it
fear,
and
and
live
live
with
with
fear.
being the discomfort of being semi-tortured from medical procedures and treatments. We want to stay out of the medical model.
Mhm.
Stay protected and, avoid the need for medicinal substances and avoid the need for medical care by taking good care of your health. And whether it's heart disease, diabetes, cancer, osteoporosis, or dementia, you have the ability to could create your own health destiny. A healthier diet is healthier than one that's less healthy. That means that you do create your destiny, and that's what I'm giving, and I'm hoping to give people the information and the motivation to make radical changes. And I know I can't change everybody, but my desire is to obviously to do so or give or to protect people from having these tragedies happen to them needlessly because they're brainwashed to think it's genetic, there's nothing you can do, nutrition has no effect, meat's not going to hurt me, I can eat, whatever they're thinking, smoking's not going to hurt me, drinking's not going to hurt me, whatever it is, they can think that way. But clearly, their life becomes so much more free and peaceful and actually even emotionally more stable when you're not playing Russian roulette with your life at every meal, you know?
You know, what I love about the Nutritarian lifestyle is that it's very simple. It really is simple. And you make it as simple as possible. When people think of diets, they think, oh, you got to measure this, you got to measure that. But the foods that we're introducing to our bodies don't require that kind of measurement because, everything that, like you said, you feel satisfied. You're eating and
Right.
you don't crave all that stuff. But what would you say to someone who is now, actually has decided that they want to maybe attend the your Eat to Live retreat center. What are some of the things? What is the number one thing? And we only have like 4 minutes left in the classroom here, but what's the number one thing that by looking at all the people that you've had in the retreat center, the Eat to Live, and by the way, if you do decide you want to go to this, tell them Lily sent you. So what is the number one obstacle that you feel that you've had to overcome with each person who is successful eventually with the program?
Well, that's some people feel they can't do it on their own
Mhm.
and they need to come and be immersed in it. Now, here's the thing is because nothing works like enforced abstinence to get rid of an addiction. And you could do it at home. You can quit cigarette smoking at home. But you get better at it the longer, and it gets easier the longer you stay away from putting a cigarette in your mouth.
Yeah.
If you keep smoking on the weekends, you're prolonging the agony. After not smoking for a long enough period of time, you're not going to crave cigarettes anymore. So what works at my retreat is the same thing that works at home, is that do it 100%, don't do it 80% or 90%, do it all the way because when you avoid the use of these addictive substances, you stop craving or desiring them when you're far enough away from having used them. And so people needed that space, that safe space of being away from sugar and salt and oils and greasy foods and meats and things. And it's hard at the beginning, but every day it gets easier. And then eventually you start to like it and even love it. But of course, they just have to do it and they have to repeat it the right technique and the right over and over again. Sometimes I tell people, look, don't eat what you like to eat or what you feel like eating, or what you think you should eat, what you know you should eat, what you thought you should eat. Eat what I tell you to eat instead. And don't even evaluate it if you like it or not. Just do it. And then I'll show you if you learn the recipes and you do it long enough, you will start to like it more and more. And so that's what, and they come here, we prove them, and they always say, oh, the chefs up their game. The chefs didn't up their game. Your taste buds are working better now. And people are feeling better and their headaches go away and their fatigue goes. So they start to really transform their life the longer they do it. And you don't have to come to my retreat to do that. You can do it at home, but you have to do it. You have to really do it at home,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. And of course, you can get one of Dr. Furman's 14 books and little booklets that he has out there. I know that Eat for Life, Dr. Furman always says this is the one to start with because this is all the years of writing books. This is the last culmination of all the information that he's improved upon. And so it's Eat for Life with Dr. Furman. And did you want to add anything to that,
Yeah,
Dr.
I
Furman?
wanted to just say that people, I know people with individual health challenges, whether it's rheumatoid arthritis or prostate cancer or test, whatever it is, they can get my guidance from myself and my staff at drfurman.com. They can, through the Ask the Doctor forum, through the membership, they can actually, we have coaches and we have the ability where they can communicate and ask me questions directly. So they can get some personalized guidance if they need that.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, Dr. Fuhrman, I know June 24th to 28th is going to be a very special time for all of us. Just as a reminder, the link is below in the description. So before, that's like right now, I want you to click that link, register, and get ready to change your life. And so, Dr. Fuhrman, thank you so much for everything that you do. And I'm looking forward to being part of your workshop and your webinar.
Terrific. Good luck, everybody.
Although I'm not being interviewed, I just want to say I'm not being interviewed, but that's okay. I'm going to be attending and learning and growing with everybody. And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lily McDermott and Dr. Joe Fuhrman wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.